All right, changing subjects. When will Anthony Albanese meet Donald Trump, and will the latest trade blow-up with Canada be bad news for us? Joining me live is former Liberal MP Jason Falinski. Jason, good morning.
Good morning, Timmy. How are you?
Good. Great to have you on the program. Now, there's a sense of urgency about Anthony Albanese meeting Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But it comes with its own dangers.
Sure does.
The one-on-one.
The one-on-one. Just ask Zelensky what can happen. So he better wear a suit. That'd be number one. Get the right colour tie. But look, he's created this now. He's built it into something bigger than it is by avoiding the meeting. It was a strategic decision, so it didn't happen before the election. But now it's like, if something goes wrong, it's going to blow up big time. So this has been a strategic mistake by Albo to leave it this long.
All right, let's look domestically. Your party, Susan Lee, gave her first major speech. I think she did pretty well.
Yeah, she went down well. She pointed out that we got decimated, talked about some of the stuff we need to get back into the game and how she's going to do it. And I think most people looked at it and went, yeah, OK, we'll keep watching. The
key message to introduce herself to the Australian people and explain that they got the message from the election, as you just mentioned. Do you think, in reflection, she succeeded with it?
Yeah, I think she really did. I think one of Dutz's biggest problems was he never felt comfortable introducing himself to the Australian people, telling his personal story. She went a long way down that road, so that was tick number one. Tick number two was to be front up and tell truth to power, and she did that. And tick number three was, look, here are some of the things that we're going to do about it, without getting into specificity about that. So that was all really good.
And it was a real difference, wasn't it? Because Peter Dutton brushed the press club.
Yeah, he did. He didn't like it. Didn't feel comfortable there. So a bit like Albo's not meeting with Donald. So, and that never ends well. And as we know, it just didn't end well in the end.
Now, the fallout of the war in the Middle East, Donald Trump's unorthodox diplomacy.
Yes.
It is. To explain it, you're getting one, obviously, huge message out of Iran. You're getting conflicting messages out of the US.
Yep.
These reports from CNN that they weren't as successful. That's fake news. What do you think? How do you unstitch it all?
Oh, look, they almost certainly succeeded in massively disrupting and probably ending Iran's nuclear program. They've weakened the regime in Iran. That's mostly been done by Israel. And there's very little doubt that Israel got the green light to do that by the United States. He also was, I think, incredibly clever up front by trying to negotiate a deal with Iran. So it looks like he came, or indeed may have, come to the conflict in good faith. So it's not like, I wanted this, I was itching for it, it looks like this was my last resort.
So he doesn't want it to last long. He's got a whole bunch of people back in the United States that he came to power on the back of that don't want them to be the international police.
And look, the problem with that, though, is they're the only country that can be. And what we saw in the 1930s was, if you don't have someone enforcing the rule of law, you end up in a situation where you end up in an international war, and that's what we want to avoid. And we saw that under Biden, when you saw, he gets out of Afghanistan, so Vladimir Putin gets into Ukraine.
The NATO summit secured a deal on increased defence spending for many countries. Spain, obviously, is a bit of an outlier there, and Anthony Albanese standing his ground on defence spending.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a huge... That could be the issue that blows up when he meets with Trump. But look, the fact of the matter remains, with all of this sort of stuff, that's another victory for Trump. 8 years ago, Trump said, you guys are not pulling your weight. He gets to NATO this week and they say, yeah, you're right, and we're all going to increase our defence spending with the exception of Spain. Don't forget, by the way, a couple of months ago, Spain had a nationwide blackout because they've so mismanaged their economy and their energy grid.
This Canada thing, forget about Australia just for a minute.
Yeah.
They have been historically the most wonderful, harmonious of allies for forever.
Yeah, for the United States, absolutely. So the issue is Mark Carney, who's the Prime Minister of Canada, he started off 30 points behind Pierre Poilievre. He ended up winning that election by saying, I'm the anti-Trump candidate in Canada. He's not popular, he's not a good politician, he doesn't have great ideas, but he does have one thing. He's anti-Donald Trump in Canada. And so he's going to keep that fight going for as long as he can. And we all know Trump loves a fight, so he'll just keep feeding into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, on the subject of a fight, war of words in New South Wales Parliament this week, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, you rarely hear him like this, labelling independent Mark Latham a bigot and likening him to a pig. What did you make of that?
Well, I don't know about the pig thing, but yeah, Chris Minns is a pretty even-tempered guy. Mark Latham is a bigot, and you know some of the stuff he said is just not right. And it is unfortunate that he is representing our community in Parliament. And I think Chris Minns is right to finally call it out. And I think more political leaders need to be that brave. I know Mark Speakman has said similar things in the past. I also think that they're trying to get this workers' compensation reform done at the moment, which gives the unions more power. And Mark Latham is frustrating that. So that might also be a bit behind Chris Minns' frustration as well.
Just quickly, what about Mark Speakman and the Liberal Party in New South Wales? Where are they at?
Mate, it's a tight contest. It's not seen that way. Minns is doing a good job in sort of the PR state, but we all know living in New South Wales that there are real problems. Trains aren't running properly, hospitals are a disaster, crime's out of control. There's a lot of stuff for Mark Speakman to work with. How he said he'd fix housing. Housing's got worse in New South Wales, so there's a lot for him to work for.
Great to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jason Falinski.